let me get back to the Hightower thing. You know, populism is generally seen as kind of the opposite of libertarianism, but I think you're invoking kind of almost a populist message in terms of it's that.
I think that's a false dichotomy, that libertarianism and populism are polar opposites. Certainly there are ways that they diverge, but what they have in common is they do not think that government should be a means to enrich individual or private interest. And I say what politics has come down to is a means by which the rich and powerful get more rich and powerful. And let's just look at two things that have been done recently or attempted that was so rejected by the populace that it was beaten back. The Gardasil incident and the Trans-Texas Corridor. There, Rick Perry almost unilaterally tried to shove things down the throats of the people of Texas that they did not want and they would not stand for. And it hurt him politically. And the question is, why would he do such a politically stupid thing? Well, the answer is because his cronies wanted it. And so that's why the Republican Party has been taken over by cronyism. And you see they talk a certain way to their members, and the rank and file of the Republican Party, I think, are not into this, but their leadership is, and they're so firmly entrenched that I don't think it can ever be changed. Now, the Democratic Party, they may be just as bad. It's just they haven't had a chance to prove it in the last 10 or 20 years in Texas. So they may just have a different set of cronies. But I say, well, at least changing cronies every so often is a benefit. But the best thing is to elect someone who doesn't have cronies, and that's libertarians. I've said that, I've quoted H.L. Mencken as saying that an election is an advanced auction of stolen goods. And that's why libertarians haven't fared very well in recent elections, because we refuse to steal anyone's goods, so we don't have anything to auction off. But I think populism and this newspaper, the Texas Observer, and Jim Hightower were all standing strong and they would stand with libertarians and say, let's not steal someone's goods so you can auction it off to well-connected special interest.
But they would say, right, they would say, you know, let's have more reapportionment of wealth, let's have some social welfare programs, I mean, they would say those things. Is that a negotiable point?
No, not with libertarians. So that is where we would have a difference of opinion. But the way it's being done now, where it's being done to enrich the well-off, the politically well-connected, the pull peddlers, as Ayn Rand called them, that's not right in anybody's book, except the people who are currently in power.
Can you work with other people? Thinking of the populace kind of made me interested, because it seems like there are a lot of groups who are saying what you're saying about kind of the structure currently, it's not working, you know, there's a systemic problem. But the goals are very different, you know, like if you got to the governor's office, if you're, you know, kind of political allies took power, it would be a very different future than if Jim Hightower took power and his, you know, and his people. Can you work? At what point can you work together, and at what point do those differences diverge?
Well, I think we could work together on things like the Trans-Texas Corridor. That's an enormous, and that's not dead. If Rick Perry gets reelected, I'm told that those contracts are on desk, ready to be signed. And it will be, we'll have a battle on our hands, because the Texas people just will not tolerate it. And I don't speak for Jim Hightower, but I do not think he would stand for that for a minute. And the border. I think that whatever people think about immigration, that's one thing. But the violence that's going on down at the border is something that has to be stopped. We have to defend ourselves. And I don't see any populists saying anything different about that. And so there are several big things that we can agree upon, and we should join together and work toward, understanding that we don't have to agree on everything, work together on some things.
Electorally, can you work together? I mean, have you found support in those communities despite differences?
Well, yes, I have, because on the two things I talked about, the border and the Trans-Texas corridor. I mean, you can take an East Texas farmer who's voted nothing but Democrat and is as populist as you can see, and he is not going to let his land be stolen. I mean, that goes almost beyond politics.
But Bill White also, to your mind, isn't an acceptable option for other reasons.
Well, that's right. I think that he does not have the same ideas that I have, and I don't think he's serious about the border. I don't know where he stands on the Trans-Texas corridor. I do think that he would not support it in its current form because it would not be favoring anyone that's connected to him. So at the least, it would be slowed down and have to be reworked, I think, to fit his agenda. But again, I don't know exactly what he believes on that because I don't think he's really letting us know.
Who do you think will come? Assuming taking yourself out of the race, where do you think the other candidates running will rank? Not who will win, but do you think Perry will get more votes than White, or White more than Perry?
I don't know. I think that is up for grabs now. Now the polls seem to have Perry out in front, but I just don't know how to place any faith in those polls. I'm very skeptical of them, but I couldn't say at this point. I think that what happens in the debate on October 19th could be a game changer. Of course, Rick Perry refuses to show up for that in the other debates that we've had, and that's a problem. I find that offensive, and I hope the Texas voters do too, that he would not stand up and subject himself to not only that debate, but any questioning by the public or the voters. It tells me that there's something wrong there. There's something seriously wrong with his candidacy, that he cannot trust himself, or his handlers cannot trust him to be unleashed and alone on a stage. I told him the other day, when I tried to question him, but he ran away, I told him that if you can't face Kathie Glass, how are you going to stand up to Washington, D.C., or the violence that's going on the border? And the voters should take that into consideration, because I think it's an indication of someone who's really not his own person.